All over the world, there are billions of species of animals fighting in the epic struggle for survival. This begs the question, which is the greatest species that has ever lived on the planet Earth? Is it the giraffe? Is it the tiger? Is it the lion? Definitely not. Is it the elephant? Is it the whale? The seal? Walrus? The flying birds? It's definitely not the polar bear. They're all dying. So, what is the greatest species on this planet Earth? Well, the answer might surprise you, but it is the worm. Hello, I'm Martin Scarelli's illegitimate, and welcome to the fantastic journey that is worms, a life in the dirt. This is the common earthworm, also known as night crawlers and Lumbricus terrestris by its Latin name. They are invertebrates, meaning they'll always back down in a fight. They are herbivores. They live up to 6 years. They are rather well endowed, because they reach lengths of up to 14 inches. Earthworms are known for their vitality to the soil health because they transport nutrients and minerals from below to the surface via their waste and their tunnels. However, the title of worm isn't just given to land-dwelling worms. There are also worms that live deep in the ocean as well. One of the most famous is the Christmas tree worm, also known by its Latin name, Spiralbranchus gigantus, which when translated means spiral branches gigantic. Another famous worm is the bobbit worm. It got its name from the woman Lorena Bobbitt, who famously cut off her husband's penis when he cheated on her. Honestly, that's the least she could have done. Up next, we have the Nemerti worm, a big blob of just fat and muscle that is apparently a worm. Kind of stretching it a bit if you ask me. There's also the pig butt worm that looks like a pig butt, but is a worm. It lives deep sea and probably should never have been seen by the light of day. Ever. And of course you have the bacon strip worm that, oh yes, it shoots venomous neurotoxin that can kill its prey. It's very hostile and should not be touched at all, or okay, that's gonna kill you. You know, worms don't actually get this amazing without making a few enemies along the way. One of the most common enemies is obviously birds, who feed worms to their young during the springtime. One of the most dangerous times for a worm to be alive. This is the Turdus migratorius, also known as having no soul, and it's okay to kill them by its Latin root. They are the American red robins, extremely hostile wastes of God's own magic, and should definitely be eradicated from the face of the earth through mass extinction. Unfortunately, these birds live up to 13 months and can even carry the West Nile virus longer than other birds without dying. They are protected under the Migratory Bird Act, but there isn't even a Migratory Worm Act, even though earthworms do in fact migrate deeper into the earth before the winter season. Worm recognition in government is non-existent right now, and is much needed for social reform. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to some of the most common predators that prey on the earthworm. There's the wood ant, the blackbird, Australian flatworm, frogs, minks, starlings, another wood ant, red foxes, rats, newts, leeches, slugs, hedgehogs, grass snakes, curlews, cane toads, centipedes, beetles, woodcocks, pine martens, moles, stoats, gulls, ravens, lizards, slow worms, even wild boar. These savage predators are some of the worst who have ever been spawned on this good earth. We now have one of the leading professors on wormology to tell us a little bit about these predators.
Nosotros trabajamos súper fuerte y tú lo que estás haciendo es botando nuestro dinero. Nosotros trabajamos duro y fuerte para que tú vayas a JP2 y no para que estés haciendo esos documentales que son una pérdida de tiempo. Tú pudieras estar usando tus habilidades en algo mucho más productivo y no en esa tontería.
Thank you, Dr. Ruiz, for helping us understand a little bit more about these worms. Throughout the history of cinema, television, and literature, we see reference to the idea of the worm as an archetype. Today, we aim to find and explore these references and what they might signify about us and as humans as a culture. Tremors, a 1990 film directed by Ron Underwood, shows the fictional worm called a grabloid terrorizing a small town in the American Southwest. In this film, we see the worm archetype as the tragic hero, one that has too much pride and lets it get the best of him. We see parallels from the grabloid to the Greek myth known as the Fall of Icarus, where he flies too close to the sun with waxed wings and falls to his death. Like this myth, we see the grabloid try to fly even though he does not possess propellers. How to eat fried worms is considered one of the most accurate depictions of the great tragedies that unfolded during the Second Worm War. The Worm Holocaust, as it is known, claimed the lives of over 11 worms over the course of 5 minutes, where the worms were fried and eaten as part of a bed made by 2 juveniles. The ramifications are still being discussed about today. Men in Black 2 also possesses a worm that plays the role of a tragic hero, but in this case, we see the worm actually get the best of his antagonist, in this case played by William Smith. This deviation from traditional storytelling shows a monumental shift in human culture during the early 2000s. The video game Silent Hill 3 sticks to one of the most traditional interpretations of the worm archetype. The split worm, as it is called, is found in an underground level in a damp environment. Many would have researched the split worm, but sadly the game sucks. The Lord of the Rings is widely accepted as one of the greatest film trilogies of all time. It is no coincidence, then, that there are references to worm in each of the films. First, we have the Fellowship of the Ring, where worms are seen in a quick shot at the feet of the 4 hobbits. Hobbits, being creatures that are very in tune with nature, obviously appreciate the company of these worms. In this scene, worms are wiggling around to help calm the hobbits in a tense situation. In the second film, The Two Towers, one of the characters bears the name of Grima Wormtongue, an obvious reference to the similarities of a worm and a tongue, both pink, both slippery. And in the last film, The Return of the King, the very first shot of the film is, you guessed it, of a worm. This film later went on to win Best Picture and was tied with Titanic and Ben-Hur for the most Oscars ever in Oscar history. The Return of the King is widely accepted as the best of the 3 within the trilogy, and one can see why. The first shot is the best shot of the entire trilogy. And who could forget the Alaskan bullworm in SpongeBob SquarePants? All of these references make up the human understanding of worms as the greatest creature to ever exist. As we conclude this documentary, I hope you had as much fun learning about worms as we did teaching you. To me, worms aren't just a creature, an animal, an invertebrate, a decomposer, a herbivore, a bug. They are a way of life. If everybody loved worms, the world would be a much happier place to live. I wish you all the best in your own searches for the meaning of worms. And as I leave you, I ask you to do the same for me. Best of luck, and good night.